Commission to order. First order of business is call to order, which I've done, and Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, fire evacuation. One exit is out to my left and down the stairway to the left and get as far away from the building as you can. The other one would be directly behind you, out the front door, and as far away from the building as possible. I'm going to appoint Walter Kuzel as a regular member tonight in place of Frank. Oh, let's do the roll call. That's right.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ken Helinski.
Here.
Christy Antonio.
Here.
Linda DeGray.
Here.
John Petronella is here. Terrence Lynch.
Here.
Frank Alimo is absent. Joe Muley.
Here.
Walter Kuzel.
Here.
Rob Anderson.
Here.
And Laura Anderson is absent.
Okay, as previously stated, I'm going to appoint Walter Kuzel as a regular member tonight in place of Frank Alimo. Okay, approval of minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, any changes to the minute, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
having watched the movie on YouTube, I'm going to be voting on this.
Okay. Any comments? Okay, can we have a show of hands? All in
Aye.
favor? Aye. Okay, town attorney report. We have a town attorney report today from Attorney Serrato. Does anyone have any comments on that or questions? Hearing none?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move item 7 to 5B and also item 10 to be 5C.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're at 5. Public participation. Okay. At this time, I'm going to invite any public participation from the audience. This would be anyone who would like to make comments on any item related to the commission that is not on the agenda. Any speakers? Any participants? Nope. Okay, moving on. We'll go to 5B, which is going to be the new public hearing, DH 3150. Mr. Secretary?
Yes, the Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing at the regular meeting on Wednesday, June 10th, 2026 at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, concerning the following application. Public hearing number 3150, 141 Hazard Avenue, application for special use permit for Child Care Center. Jeannie Rinaldi, applicant. Harshish Panchel Investments, LLC owner, map 65, lot 2, BP zone.
Okay. Would you like to come up and make your presentation on your application?
This.
You could be heard. Thank you.
Okay, please state your name and address, please.
Jenny Rinaldi, 15 Noah Chapin Drive, Somers, Connecticut.
Okay, thank you. Why don't you describe what you're trying to do?
Sure. I'm looking to purchase the 2 buildings on the 141 Hazard Ave lot, Building A and Building B, and convert them both to special use permit for Child Care Center.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Linda.
Just a couple.
Sure.
Because I read your narrative, you're going to have 100 children, and I went out and I looked at the property. Is that going to be enough land? I mean, I'm like,
Yeah.
100 kids running around out there.
Yeah, they take turns on playground spaces. So actually, the 101 is like the max by the look of how we designed the floor plan. So because we need 35 square feet per child, the rooms need to be set up, in that way. But yes, the square footage of the buildings shows that it would be 101 kids max.
Okay, and another thing, through the chair to the staff, I didn't see anything online that the applicant had gotten approval. These are all condos, so I don't know if they need approval from the condo association. Do you, each of those buildings,
They might need approval from the condo association, but we're not involved with that.
okay, just clarifying that, so.
It's kind
okay.
of separate.
Yep, that's it. That was my whole thing.
Anyone else?
Thanks.
Just out of curiosity, where would the children have their outside recreation? What
So the way
area?
the buildings are set up, there's the space in between and then behind it. So there is some brush behind it that would get cleaned up a little bit to extend the play area back that way. But then in between the two, it'd be fenced off in between and then behind both, and then, kind of encompassing that whole area.
Yeah, I drove by there tonight. They're actually pretty nice-looking buildings.
Yeah.
They don't look like they've
Agreed.
deteriorated too much, you know.
Yeah, the
Okay.
inside.
Okay, anyone else? Okay.
Yeah,
Staff?
right.
Yeah, go ahead, Darren.
Right now, you've got a fence behind Building B, right? There's a chain link fence there, if I'm not mistaken.
There's a fence in between the two, but that would be
Okay.
replaced. It is chain link, and it would be replaced with a chain link, but there's no entrance, so you would have to have an entrance to get into that playscape area, but it doesn't go behind the whole building currently.
Okay, I thought it, my mistake, I thought it did, and I thought you were talking about the space in between the buildings for one place. And what about the space on the other end of Building A?
So it would go kind of behind both the buildings and then along the back of the property, and then it would come, the buildings are kind of set,
Yeah,
kind of off-centered, and it would connect the two, like the front of the back building and the back of the front building.
okay.
So there's actually quite a bit of square footage per, it would be separated into 3 different playgrounds.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Staff comments?
Yes, good evening. So the 2 standalone buildings that occupied the site, the first one was built in 1972, the next one was built in 1993. Here's all the files associated with it. And I couldn't find others. So I was trying to verify just the site with original maps and stuff, but the applicant had one, but it was very poor in quality, so it was hard to read. So I was trying to find that one, could not find it anywhere. So we have what we have as far as that is concerned. The parking there's certainly adequate parking for even the employees and the 101 students, as it's required to have 1 per 6 students. And I'd say the biggest issue that I can see here is the landscaping. It's not exactly up to par. It's been vacant for some time, so it hasn't been kept up. And actually, the island in the road in front of this is actually part of the property, and that's in pretty much disrepair as far as the landscaping. The bushes have mostly been killed. I'm guessing people ran over them. So the other thing is the sea buffer yard would apply to the rear northeast portion of the site, and which happens to be all wetlands. So aside from it being a residential area, it is wetlands, and so if there are any plans to utilize any of the, or cut down any of the landscaping in that area, you should refer to the wetlands agent, just to make sure that you're not in violation of any setbacks for that. So you would need to apply for the sea buffer yard. You could do that tonight, or we can make it a condition of approval, I guess. What was the other thing? So there are a number of places that a dumpster could go. There's actually a lot, unlike most places. There's like a couple different places, one by the front building, I think that's A, and then in front of the B parking lot next to the road. There's that big box.
Okay.
I'm guessing there may have been a big dumpster there at one time, because you could fit like 3 parking spaces in that. So wherever you decide to put the dumpster, you're going to need to have a proper dumpster pad, and it must be fenced in. I didn't know if I'll go through this, but if you
Yeah.
could explain what you want to do with the landscaping.
Yeah.
The parking lot should all be restriped, and any changes to the layout would be required to be approved by staff. And it would be good to have a detail of the area for the playscape. I mean, exact dimensions, between the buildings, it's going back 10 feet, 15 feet, whatever. And actually having details of the playscape would be helpful, because you're going to need that for the building department anyway.
Yep.
And other than that, it's pretty much a simple application. I mean, it's more just site conditions.
Go ahead.
So how are you going to egress Building A to go into Building B or vice versa? Just through
They
the
would
front?
be, so the kids wouldn't be going between buildings, just adults. So you would be able to go either behind on the playground area or
Okay.
in front on the walkways.
Because I don't see any, so it's not on the side, it'll be either the back or the front.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I guess the question, to expand on the landscaping now, I mean, an application such as this is usually required to submit a landscape plan, and again, it does not show any a dumpster location or in a place. So are we expecting that to receive a landscape plan, or how are we going about this?
I asked the applicant to at least provide a narrative for this evening, and I suppose she has something to say to that effect.
Okay, all right.
I mean, as far as the playground, you had talked about the playground, and what would be on there is wood chips. I mean, as far as doing landscaping, I would do whatever is required. I mean, I don't know if there's a specific on the number of bushes versus what can and can't be there, because I know there's signage rules and all of that, and there's no signs currently on the building, so I would, have to obviously do what is allowed. As far as the landscaping, I would want to do what makes it look nice. I mean, I can't tell you exactly what bushes I'm putting in because I don't have that information. The building is not currently owned by me yet, so I can't, do that work until that all goes through. But whatever is required, I'm happy to do, because obviously I want the building to look nice as well. I mean, it's my business.
Well, I guess, well, how do we review this to, see if it's, what's acceptable? I mean, we really don't have anything
I
that's,
think we could enhance the condition 12,
yeah,
add something to that, saying if we want to, an plain
yeah, I mean,
overview
yeah,
or something.
there are standards within the regulations
Standards, so
to
we
meet, so we got to have some assurance that something's going to be done, and it's got to be approved by staff, I guess, or
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just asking, how are we,
In item 12, I
how
think.
are we going about doing this? So,
Okay.
because,
Walter? Walter, go ahead.
These drawings aren't stamped by any engineer. Is that allowed? I know it wasn't when I added a building on.
They are,
the large-scale plan is by William Palmberg, so,
the
the last
inside
sheet.
plans are not, but they certainly
The
would
one
have
that
to
you could
be.
barely read is stamped way back
Yeah.
when. This was
And there are
drawn
others
in
that are
94.
stamped.
yeah, that's an old plan, yeah.
Yeah.
That's from 1993 or whatever.
But none of these are stamped by any engineer.
Well, that would have to be stamped by an architect. That certainly could be a condition of approval,
I know
but this is.
I know when I added a shed, I came with the same plans, and I was told no, because they didn't have an engineer that stamped them, so.
So, I do, I tried to relay that we needed some some information about what you plan with the landscaping, so, and the play area.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's going to be up to the commission whether they want to see that actual narrative. You know, I'm going to take this area up front and I'm going to plant X number of bushes.
Okay.
Or, I mean, there was a very nice landscaping plan that it's just old and tired right now. So, I mean, a lot of the plants will need to be replaced.
Yeah, and as far as the drawings, I know that for the building permits, they are current, have to be stamped by an engineer. I wasn't aware that the ones that I brought were not sufficient for being zoned for a special use permit.
Okay, so I've got landscaping plan and engineering stamps that are required that we can add to the conditions, okay? For those two items, is the commission comfortable with allowing the staff to examine that and accept it?
What about the playscape area? The condition 14 is asking for a detail area for the playscape
Okay,
area.
and that's already says that, oh, right? That already says that.
Yes.
Okay, were you looking to add something to that?
Well, is this something that we need to see, or we're going to let staff handle that,
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'm asking, is the commission comfortable with allowing the staff to review the conditions or not? Or would you like the applicant to come back at some other future time with those items?
I would say if they can provide to staff 11 through 14 on the site-specific conditions, I would be comfortable letting staff make that decision. I mean,
Okay.
The regulations are pretty
Okay.
cut and dry, and then they have an old plan, they could probably just refresh it and probably be perfect, ready to go.
I concur. Yeah, I mean, we want to encourage adaptive reuse. It's a moderately small site. They're not trying to do any external changes. We have an idea of what the site is. I mean, we know what the site is. We know what the site could be with refreshed landscaping, looking at the original plans. And I think we have a pretty solid idea in our head now with the narrative. So I'm comfortable letting staff just ensuring that everything is spick and shine.
Okay, so we probably should make a comment about that in the motion or add something to the conditions.
Yeah.
Oh, to allow staff to.
What's that? To allow staff
to do the review.
To
Items 11 through
approve
14.
11 through 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, the applicant submit something to staff,
Yeah.
for those items.
I'm just trying to clarify this. Should we add a C under condition 12 landscaping, C a landscaping plan, because we've got a narrative, and then D with an engineering stamp, or
Okay,
I'm just asking if that's something that we can add as condition, because the applicant said she's going to do whatever she needs to do. These are required by our regulations. So if we just put them in our conditions and then stipulate that staff, once staff reviews everything, that the application is complete.
okay, but there was an issue with the playscape as well.
Right,
There
in
was
the
some
place-
detail needed
right.
with the playscape.
Right, and a playscape and a location for the dumpster. Condition 11 is location, once a location is approved, the dumpster must be fenced in, but I think the applicant should be provide location, not, so that it should say provide location of screened dumpster, as opposed to once a location is.
Maybe what we should do is add a condition 20 and describe all of that
Maybe.
through 11 through 14. These are the items that the commission would like the staff to review and assure that requirements are met. The engineering stamp on the drawings, the landscaping plan, and I think the playscape plan, right? Playscape plan?
I got a question to staff through
Okay.
through the chair. Because there's no real improvements being made, other than, we're looking at landscaping, would we normally require an engineer's stamp on this? They're not really doing anything, they're not altering or changing anything, on the site, per se.
Typically not. And
Yeah.
this is one of the issues that just arises over and over and over in Enfield, and
Yeah,
many places, is we're reutilizing buildings that
Yeah.
have been there for decades. And it's like, at what point do you start
Yeah.
from scratch?
Yeah,
And there
I-
is an engineering stamp on the site plan that was provided, and there are some others that we have
Yeah,
that have it.
that whole site really hasn't changed much. I
Yeah.
believe that they repaved it, and I believe it's been restriped already,
In front of one building,
but,
in front of building B,
yeah.
in front of building A.
Yeah.
It's-
But no other improvements really have been made, or alterations that change it from
Yeah.
the original structure. I mean, the only thing that we really want to see is, I guess, maybe the location of the playscape, but, I think that's kind of informal.
We would normally also require details. So details of the dumpster fencing, details of the playscape, detail of the fencing around the playscapes,
Yeah.
and then the landscape plan. And in circumstances such as this, where there is actually no site improvements, we would not require a Mylar to be filed, but we could include details with the site plan, or with the conditions of approval.
Walter?
So I recuse my statement of engineering stamp.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm all set.
Any other comments at this point? Lori, could you describe the waiver of the buffer, why that's necessary?
It's actually on there, a little bit, where am I?
I must have missed that.
Motion to approve a waiver of C buffer per section 10.20.c.
Yeah, but why is that? Where is it causing an issue?
Next to the residential area that's actually
Okay.
wetlands.
Okay,
So it's what we were discussing before.
yeah, okay, all right. Okay, since this is a public hearing, I'd like to ask if anyone in the audience has any comments. Since there's only one person in the audience, and I think it's someone who's affiliated with the playscape. Any comments from the public?
She thinks it's a great idea.
Any comments from the public?
You have to come forward and state your name and address.
Yeah. Okay, so, I guess, are we going to add a condition or not? What's everybody's feeling?
If you give me 1 second, I'll try to write a number 20.
All right.
Location detail of dumpster fencing.
I think the first building was a legal office at one time, wasn't it? Wasn't it a lawyer's office?
It was-
Jimmy Alamo, yeah.
There's still a sign on that first building, seniors, something.
Yeah, there's some kind of sign.
Second one.
Yeah, medical stuff.
Probably not quite yet.
So,
I think as soon as we're done with the 20.
I think we're waiting for that bus that's out front. The let a minute talk about.
Okay, so based on everything we were talking about with the conditions 11 through 14, I'm suggesting that a number 20 be provided saying landscape plans, dumpster location, and details for dumpster fencing, playscape, and chain link fencing shall be submitted for final approval.
Sounds good. Okay,
Did you add the details that you were talking about?
That's what I'm saying, the dumpster location, details for the dumpster fencing, and,
playscape.
yeah.
Okay, so I think,
Motion to close public hearing.
we go.
Second?
Okay. Could I have roll call, please?
Yes.
4.
Christie Antonio?
4.
Linda DeGray?
4.
Joseph Mueller?
4?
4.
4.
John Petronella is 4.
Okay. Can we have the motion? There's 2 motions.
The waiver
Yep,
first.
do the waiver first.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve a waiver of a C buffer requirement per section 10.20.c.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, could we have roll call, please?
Yes, Ken Helinski,
4.
Christie Antonio,
4.
Linda DeGray,
4.
Joseph Mueller,
4.
Terrence Lynch,
4.
Walter Krizel,
4.
and John Petronella is 4.
Okay. And can we go ahead and do the next motion, Mr. Secretary?
This-
We want the, Lori, do you have the words for the number 20? Or John?
Oh, sorry, yes. Is that what you were asking?
Yes.
I couldn't
Well, I
hear
knew
him.
you did. I just-
Okay, so number 20, requirement for a landscape plan, dumpster location, and details for dumpster fencing, playscapes, and chain link fencing shall be submitted for final approval.
I think he needs
And-
to read it
I
as
think he
part of
needs to
his
read it.
motion.
That's why I thought she was writing it out. I thought she was writing it out.
Take your time.
That's all right. Thank you. Thank you.
We thought you knew
No,
secretary.
you're fine.
We thought you knew shorthand, John, you know?
I can't even read my own writing.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve public hearing number 3150, 141 Hazard Avenue, application for special use permit for childcare center. Jeannie Rinaldi, applicant. Hershish Panchel Investments LLC owner, map 65, lot 2, BP zone, with the conditions as listed and with the added condition number 20 as follows: a landscape plan showing the dumpster location and details for the dumpster fencing and playscape, and chain link fencing shall be submitted for final approval.
Okay, I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I got it.
Seeing none,
No.
can we have roll call, please?
Yeah. Ken Helinski,
4.
Christie Antonio,
4.
Linda DeGray,
4.
Joseph Mueller,
4.
Terrence Lynch,
4.
Walter Krizel,
4.
and John Petronella is 4.
Congratulations.
Other than zip.
Thank you.
Good
Congratulations.
luck.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to seeing all those shining faces. Well, I go
That's
to
all
the
right.
park today.
Which one's yours? That one?
Actually, a good idea. Just splitting up the little ones from the bigger kids.
Oh, yeah, it's a good idea.
It's a great idea.
Okay, moving on, or to zoning enforcement officers report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You all should have received the zoning enforcement report running from January to the end of May. There's a total of 42 violations in the document. And also included in that was some records regarding zoning citation liens. Those liens have been filed on the land records for violations and citations issued where the individuals have had a hearing and have ignored the requirements for the fines for the violation under the citation. There's probably 10 more that have to be filed on land records with similar situations. So if you have any questions regarding any of the individual ones, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments for Rick?
I do.
Go ahead.
Yankee Casting, I know it's been going on forever and ever. I know there's complications with it, with deep and that. And are they making any headway with them? I know
They were supposed to have the recycling equipment in use and effective as of December of 2025. And as far as we know, it hasn't been installed, hasn't been working. The mountain of sand, the last report on that sand was that it's not hazardous waste, but it's hazardous materials. It's part of the processing. It contains metal materials and different types of chemicals from the foundry process that they entail out there. We haven't had an update. We're supposed to be getting monthly updates as to the reduction of the sand pile. That was part of the requirements. We haven't gotten that. They've just
I know
ignored
it's a mountain.
everything that's been required under the approvals, several approvals, as a matter of fact. And the main issue right now is the detention pond, which is on the south side of the property. They pulled out materials out of that which were eroded in from the sand pile. And we don't know, we asked for testing of those materials. We haven't received that. Any stormwater runoff that runs into there runs into the wetlands, the stormwater system that's out there.
Yeah.
And they haven't given us any updates on any of the
So they're not being forthcoming with their information or even recognizing.
We had a meeting a year ago in the town hall with their attorney, with their bank representatives, and with their engineer and the administration for the company. And we went over the different approvals and the problems with the site and what we would expect, and we haven't received anything from that.
Has Deep,
Deep has had no input into this. We've called them several times.
and they've not
They haven't,
responded either?
they haven't had any input into it, other than the original, I think it was 2016, when the company was fined for the
Yeah,
violations back then.
okay. Yeah, I know it's been going on and on and on and on, and they said, I remember them sitting here and saying, oh, well, it's just like beach sand, but nobody will take it.
And the other thing that we asked them for is, what does the sand contain? You know, what are the actual materials? Are they hazardous materials? Are they inert? Are they not going to hurt the environment? And we haven't been able to get any test results or any more information from the company.
Okay, all right.
Just to add just a little bit more information, they have never given us a report.
Oh,
It's not that they've stopped giving us reports.
We got one report.
Oh, we got one?
We got one, probably
Right at the beginning, right?
off the top of my head, I want to say it was over a year ago, well over a year ago, and it wasn't a reduction in the sand pile, it was an increase in the sand pile. And several prior approvals, they agreed to, and part of the approval was that the sand pile would be reduced, and we'd get records of that reduction. And
yeah, because
I think that happened right after the
Yeah.
meeting.
right, because the
Yeah.
last time they were in front of planning and zoning, they said, oh, we're just waiting for Deep to let us haul this stuff off. That's why I'm asking if you heard anything from Deep.
well, the problem is they could haul it off, but it's just too expensive for them to haul off. That's why they want to put in these machines to recycle the sand and clean the sand, but we haven't had an update on the progress of
All
that.
right. Okay. There you go. Thank you.
Anyone else? I have a question about the 809 Enfield Street, the Gary Rome Kia. That was the non-approved storage containers. Is that the issue, is that the same as the issue we resolved by SPR 1966
Yes.
last week? So it's the
It
same thing?
is. So what happened was, part of one of your previous approvals was the merger of the properties. And when I received the documentation and application for the merger, that showed a container on the site plan, which was never on any of the other site plans submitted for your approval. So I inquired about that and was told that there were 2 containers out there. So they agreed to submit in an application, this is back in November of 2025, submit an application in to you for the 2 containers. And I was going back and forth with the manager, and they ignored it basically until the point where I issued the cease and desist.
Okay,
So
okay. But
that's how it came about.
That's all done now, that's all resolved. They're gonna do it, they're gonna fix it.
They still have to move the containers
Right.
Okay,
based on last meeting.
but they agreed to do that, so
Yeah.
we should be okay. All right,
And then the only other thing is there's two issues that I agreed I would, to the 2 property owners, that I agreed that I would bring before you, and that has to do with clothing drop boxes. And if you read through there, they both have some suggestions regarding churches and nonprofit organizations. But even with that, I would think that even if you were to, the issue is drop boxes are not recognized in the regulations. And in the past, what they've done is you'll see them on the side in a parking lot, and they pile up with all kinds of debris and materials outside. We've had rodent complaints, and I've had to refer them to the health department on top of the violation notices to the property owners. And many of the boxes, the property owners don't even know that they're being put there. They're put on by these companies out of the blue. They don't even ask permission. But even if you were to address this in your regulations, I would make suggestions similar to containers, that they be put to the rear of a property. This is just up for conversation and just for your thoughts in the future, what you want to do. And I just included the 2 written documents sent by 2 of the property owners for your consideration, and just to think in the future when we change the regulations, if you would like to entertain something of that sort.
okay. So, any comments on that? Yes, Linda?
I'm going to preface my comments with something so that people understand that I'm not anti-Loaves and Fishes. I have sat on their board of directors. I have done fundraiser for them. I have volunteered there. And I understand their thoughts and these people. But these drop boxes don't do anything for our community. They're not helping our community. We have 2 great organizations where you can drop this stuff off. Allied Attic, Goodwill. Those clothes and items come right back into the community. These people drop their boxes, and like Rick says, you get all this stuff surrounding them because they don't come in a timely fashion, and they take them away. There's no benefit to the town. So they do become an eyesore. You see them all over the place with stuff hanging around them and that. So if you just say, well, we'll do it for the church and we'll do it for a nonprofit, you're going to start seeing them everywhere, because somebody's going to say, well, they got it over there. Why can't I do it? And And then you've got all these boxes everywhere. And one of the reasons the town didn't want them was because it becomes a blight issue, where the CEO and the blight officer has to go out and cite these people. And so you can't do it for a small group and not do it for everybody. It sets the wrong precedent to say, oh, well, just for these people, but not for those people. You can't do it for one, you have to do it for all. And that's my thoughts. So, and I've seen too many boxes and bags and stuff outside of these things. Yeah, furniture, right, and you leave furniture out and it's in the rain, nobody's gonna want that. Come on. So that's my thought. None, anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, Rob?
Just a quick comment to what she said. I've never seen a Dropbox location that wasn't all messed up. Every single one I've ever seen, there's trash everywhere, well, donations everywhere that turns into trash. And I think what she said, if you do it for one, you have to do it for everybody. And that if you do it for everybody, it's just going to become a huge nuisance, more than it already is.
Anyone else? So how does this apply in relation to the Cans for Kids boxes? We have the same problem with those kind of boxes?
I haven't seen those around.
Well, there's a Cans for Kids on Raffia Road at the gas station there.
But that's right outside his processing plant.
And that was,
Okay.
that one there was part of a previous approval near the gas station.
Yeah,
That was part of a previous approval, and there was another approval on Raffia's property in one of the barns probably about 6 or 7 years ago.
okay, I'm just
for
curious,
recycling.
because I've visited those for
Yep.
to deposit cans and stuff. Also, there's one at the Elks Club, not the Elks Club, the, what's the club on South Road there? Used to be the bakery, the Moose Club. Yeah, there's one at the Moose Club, too.
I'm not aware of that one.
Yeah, so I don't know if that has to be approved or what, but, so I've dropped them off, I've dropped cans off at both places. I haven't seen any messes or anything, because they're usually only half full. I think they clean them out pretty quickly. So would that be part of something we would want to regulate, including clothing boxes? Yeah. I don't know.
I can't answer that right now. If it's part of recycling, then I'd say, it might be something outside of our regulations. I know that on Niblick Road, there's an actual recycling facility for cans and bottles that was approved.
Yeah.
The individual ones, like you mentioned, the only ones I knew about were Raffia Road, the two over there that were previously approvals. The Moose Club I wasn't aware of, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, they have one on the side of it.
Okay, well, I can check into it and see, and we can entertain that for in the future, I guess.
Yes, Lori, go ahead.
I'm not sure if this would not be considered recycling. So, I mean, it in essence is taking clothes that nobody wants, putting them in a box, and then they are taken to a place and recycled to others to use. So I'm not sure if we could separate the use, but I totally understand, it's like the recycling, it's like, 10 cents a can and whatnot, but this is a little bit different.
But we already have two places that are legal, Goodwill and Allied Attic. Why do we want them sitting on a parking lot?
That's fair. My point was, I don't think that this would not be considered recycling.
Right, but
It's just a different
these are
type of
just
recycling.
Yeah, sure.
Plugged in parking spaces and taking up parking spots, and then you have whatever's left outside of them, and it's unsightly. And does the ZEO or the blight officer really have time to drive around and make sure that there's no trash around each box during the day? That would be another issue.
Well, I do, and I do from time to time. If I spot them, I'll take
Right.
action on them.
But again, that shouldn't, if they're not there, that's one less,
That's one less thing that I have to do, and it's not real high on the priority list of me going out and looking for things. The other issue that, with 3 of these locations, the boxes that were there, the companies were out of New York, and I called several times and didn't get anything back. They're not even local or anything from Connecticut. And the 3 other locations didn't have, they say that they don't have permission. They weren't given permission to drop the boxes there. They just dropped them. So, like I said, I didn't get a response from the companies out of New York. So that's one of the major issues. And in the
Right.
past, that's been the same. It's been up to the property owners to remove them.
right, and again, there's no benefit to the residents of Enfield when you can, where the 2 ones that are in operation here in town, there's a direct benefit to the Enfield residents. So, and you don't see unsightly stuff hanging outside.
Well,
Unless
I
somebody
guess-
goes on a Sunday and.
But what we're
drops
doing
it.
is not working.
Right,
What we're not doing, we're not regulating them, we're not
right.
addressing them at all. And, you know, as Rob said, you've never seen one that hasn't
Nope.
been a mess,
Yeah,
except maybe the American Legion and maybe Loaves and Fishes, I don't know. But if we don't regulate them, it's not working,
right.
in my opinion. So,
Yeah, if they're not listed as part of in the regulations, it's not recognized as a viable use or
yeah,
approved use.
so basically, they're low on the priority level, you know, they're not recognized, and so people just do it. So if we really want to become active in regulating it or banning it or whatever we want to do, then that would seem to me a good course of action to follow.
Yeah.
Terrence?
Yeah, I think that's really the question. How deep do we want to get into regulation of something that's supposed to be a charitable thing?
Yep.
I don't know that. But I'm reading what the letters were and what the people were saying, the Loaves and Fishes and the Legion. They seem to have it under control. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it appears to be under control, and some good is coming of it. So, and I agree, you can't, I don't know how you would define a regulation unless you said it was a nonprofit or unless you said something like that. But other than that, I don't know how you would do that or how you would make the manager of the property responsible if somebody put something there that they didn't even know about and didn't approve. So I think those are the things that make me ask questions about what we want to do. And I'm not coming at it with any idea of what we should do or idea of what not, but what do we as a group think we ought to be regulating? And I don't know that. But it's something anyway.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I concur as far as, I do think the narratives provided did explain a value to them operating as nonprofits. Because, yeah, I mean, without that perspective, I think it's easy to kind of fall down the kind of focus on them potentially becoming unsightly and unruly. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely an interesting thing because they're I mean, and they make good points in terms of like their accessory uses. They're not primary uses, that's for sure. As a primary use, they're certainly not allowed. But I think what we're talking here is, would we explicitly allow or not allow them as accessory uses, and maybe potentially put some regulations to clear them up, maybe something along the lines of, I don't think, maybe not quite necessarily as stringent as we do with dumpsters, but that's something to keep in mind, something as inspiration. And through the chair to staff, I mean, it was they both, coincidentally or not, put out the idea that we could limit it to just nonprofit clubs. I mean, our regulations already treat nonprofit clubs as a separate use, so I tend to think that there is legal standing for us to discriminate by nonprofit uses. So it feels to me, and I'll ask if staff can confirm it, from what they can tell, it seems to me that we would be within our rights to allow it as an accessory use for nonprofits. Is that, we'll have to take it back, but possibly.
We'd have to
Yeah.
check to make sure.
Possibly.
Just from legal standpoint, we'd have to just double check that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one. I understand. I agree. We wouldn't want proliferation, and I'm glad that looking at some of the responses to that the owners were cooperative, and absolutely wild that some of them were without permission. That's insane. But yeah, I mean, we have two examples here of folks that would fight for them and find benefit for their nonprofit. So it feels to me like it's worth looking into and seeing what we can do, with a caveat that if we could limit it to nonprofit uses, and then maybe add a little something else to handle aesthetics. That's my 2 cents.
I
I
will
would
say-
agree, I would
oh, I'm
agree with
sorry.
that. Yeah, I'd agree with that. The other thing I thought of is that, yeah, there are locations in town, Allied
And Goodwill.
And Goodwill, but
Where they're manned.
these particular facilities just so happen to be closer to the Thompsonville area where people may not have means to get out to Allied or get out to.
I'm going to disagree, because a lot of those people in Thompsonville do walk and go over to Goodwill and to Ally. I mean, I've seen them do that, so, but here's a question I know you haven't gotten an answer, and I don't know the answer to this, but are these nonprofits gaining any financial compensation for having these boxes there? That I don't know the answer.
According to the document from the American Legion, they are. As for Loaves and Fishes, I'm not sure if they get an actual benefit from them.
All right, so I'm just curious as to why those two organizations actually wrote a letter and said, hey, we want these boxes here. And and so I don't know if there's a financial gain for them. And so that was the big.
Yeah, according to, like I said, at least the one from the American Legion, it is some financial benefit to them.
Okay, no, yeah, so I mean, but I keep going back to Allied and to Goodwill because they're manned. There's people there during the day. These drop boxes, the American Legion, there's not somebody, I don't know, all day on site. I don't know if there is. I do know, there's not somebody at Loaves and Fishes all day. They're there for their meals, an hour or two before, and then an hour or two after. So I have an issue just saying, well, nonprofits, because some of these nonprofits aren't manned all day. So yes, people will, it could be a completely empty box, but they've stuffed this big bag full of stuff and they can't pick it up and throw it in, so they leave it on the ground, and it becomes unsightly. I'm just thinking.
Go ahead, Lloyd.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that there is a definite difference between the boxes being on the nonprofits, because they are there daily. They're small lots for the most part, where if you've got one of these like in a business regional plaza and it's just stuck in the corner someplace, nobody's paying attention to it. So I think that there is a difference between the profit and not-for-profit locations. There's, for society as a whole, it's a great opportunity to recycle clothing, which is turning into a big thing for like the young people now. They want to go and thrift shop, and a lot of this goes to the thrift shop. So I do think that they pay attention a bit more. I pass Loaves and Fishes every day, at least 2 times, and I have never seen any debris around that box. So I don't pass American Legion very often.
By the same token, I go to the American Legion periodically. I drop off my old flags, American flags. I've never seen any mess over behind that building. It's, it seems to be very well kept up and all that, so.
So we certainly can look into this, ask around for what other towns do, and
Yeah, I think we should at least pursue
look into the legality
some course of
of it.
action that might be applicable to us, Let's see what you guys can come up with. It seems to make sense. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Just to kind of piggyback on what Chris was saying. So, as long as it's a nonprofit, you can have a donation box, and since it's a nonprofit, that makes it okay because some legal loophole or whatever, possibly. So, what's to stop the nonprofits from turning into auto recyclers and taking junk cars, keeping those on the property to sell those to the scrapyard to get money from the scrapyard? It's just a donation, it's just recycling. It's no different than clothes in a box or furniture in a box or anything like that. So once you start opening up one certain area, there are places they're going to start taking advantage of things.
Well, I think you could make regulations specific enough to say clothing.
So do you think that the clothing drop boxes only get closed?
I don't know.
I can tell you for a fact they don't. They get whatever's in the bag.
At the nonprofits?
Whatever's in the bag.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
we'd have to think about that.
I have a suggestion. Upon staff getting some legal advice, maybe create a subcommittee to discuss possible zoning regulation.
Sounds good to me.
He said that because we're really getting close to the commercial vehicle regulations.
I think the subcommittee that did the trucks regulations should do this.
We'll figure it out.
They want more work.
We'll figure it out.
Not mine either.
Just a suggestion.
How about we do a little bit of research and come back to you?
You haven't heard from Sam's Mart, though, huh?
Pardon?
Sam's Mart is the other
No.
clothing box that was in here, but there was no letter or
Because they're
no,
not for profit, right?
well, he's not a nonprofit
Not
anyway,
for
I
profit.
guess.
No, it's
Well-
commercial business.
Yeah.
Well, back to what Mr. Anderson said. If it fits in the chute, who cares what's in the bag? But if they leave it outside the box, that's the issue.
That's true.
Well, it becomes a blight issue. I mean, anything can become a blight issue.
But
A
if it,
dumpster
but
can
if it
become a
fits
blight
in the
issue.
chute and out of sight,
Yeah.
it's okay. But if it's left outside the box, that's what, it's
Yeah,
the
if
old
it's a-
issue
if
is the
it's a
blight
car
issue. yeah.
bumper, then that's,
Yeah, a car bumper ain't gonna fit in the chute.
I mean, I think for the sake of our regulations, it might be good to narrow it to clothing to say that's
Yeah,
the intended
that's
use
fine.
because we want to keep the scale small.
Yeah.
But exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
we can't actually watch what goes in.
okay. Any other comments or questions on this? Yes, go ahead, Joe.
Through the chair to Rick. Snow Groves, I have a question. Do they have a CO yet?
No,
Okay, I'm no expert. How is a business that serves the public food open without a CO?
that's outside my lane. That would fall under the building department and the health department.
Okay. Have we pushed this off to them to get them involved? Because
I can push them again, and I'll stress again, so, and see what happens. I mean, in some aspects, it's tough trying to put pressure closing up a business on one hand, and you weigh that against the enforcement aspect of it. And every other business has to have a CO to be operating. And they have, for instance, Snow Groves, they still have a lot of open permits that haven't, they're just open. He hasn't done anything to move it forward. And there's building code violations that he hasn't addressed. And you just get some businesses that just ignore the normal process that everybody else has to go through. I can talk to the health department, I can talk to the building department, and we can see what we can do as a group.
yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to put somebody out of business, but from a safety standpoint, because they're serving the public, I mean, what's to stop somebody to get, God forbid, ill enough where they decide to sue somebody, and because we're allowing this business to continue without a CO, they start suing the town. Anyway,
I'll address your concern.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anyone else?
One more thing.
Go ahead.
Just one, quick, because I don't remember. Peerless Way, the guy that didn't have the CO was running that building. Did they ever,
The multi-unit building out on, so that's been,
all set?
that one's all set except for a situation with the court
Okay,
that hasn't been rectified yet.
all right, thank you. I'm done.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, moving on. Any bond releases?
Not this evening?
Okay, continued public hearings, there aren't any of those. Back to new public hearings, we have PH 3149ZA, which is going to be heard on June 25th, 2026.
Correct. We needed the 30 days for the CROG report.
Yeah, okay,
For
so
other-
we'll talk about that next time, do that next time. Old business, any old business? No, we have any.
Nope.
Okay, new business. 12A, Section 4.80, special provisions related to the Lakefront Overlay District. Lori, you want to take us through that?
Well,
Or Steve?
it seemed at the last meeting that you wanted to have the definition of block face.
Yep.
So we had been using this definition for many years, however, it just was never actually in the regulations. So the block face is defined as that portion of a block or tract of land facing the same side of a single street and lying between the closest intersecting streets. And that's what we've been using since the inception of this lakefront overlay district.
Okay, and you also added this has no legitimate reference on the page one? It is not used?
Oh, so that the strikeout was because it really has no legitimate
Yep.
reference, right? So, and that's because we have inland wetlands and flood regulations, and that's what it's referring to, the mean high water mark.
Yep.
So we were taking that out. The front yard of properties is defined as the lakeside elsewhere in these regulations. Well, actually, that was untrue. But we did move that up to item B. So the Crescent Lake and Shaker Lake districts pose unique zoning issues for the property owners and the lots that are mostly, and we're taking out if not all, because it's not proper English. Non-conforming, and many of the structures are also non-conforming. In order to accommodate for accessory uses, the front yard of the properties is defined as the lakeside. So we've now defined that. C section, the section provides a method of for property owners of the lake districts to apply for improvements to their property. Property owners within the 2 lake districts applied for, and it had been special permit, and we thought it would be more appropriate for a site plan to improve the main structure or add accessory structure. For non-conforming lots in the R33 district within the overlay district, the setback shall be 35 feet front, 35-foot rear, and 10-foot side. So that is officially defined. The commission shall use the criteria required for the review of not a special permit but site plan to consider such application. The commission may reduce the front, rear, or side yard by no more than what is consistent with the average front, rear, or side yards existing for the block face, which we've now defined, on which the property is located as of July 1st, 2017. And then we didn't make any changes to E. So properties under 11,000 square feet may get increase in lot coverage up to 25%. And then, so we tried to clarify this in verbally because it just had not been really clarified. So on lots within the Lakefront Overlay District Zone, LFOD, accessory buildings may be placed between the line established by the rear of the principal building and the lot, and at least 20 feet from the not front but rear property line, which is measured from the street property line. At least 10 feet from all side property lines, shall not be more than 15 feet in median height, and shall be no larger than 24 feet by 24 feet. Excuse me. The Zoning Board of Appeals shall have no authority to vary this provision. So basically, we just tried to clarify what had been written before.
Yeah, Walter.
So through the chair to staff, on D, what was that July 1? Didn't we strike that out, July 1, 2017? Was that a revision or something? Or I thought that's.
No, that was actually in there already.
I know, but didn't we strike it out last time because we thought it was just a revision?
Yeah, we did, Mr. Chair.
We
We did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did discuss that, and I
Yeah, we,
I think there
just
was
narrowing staff
consensus that
Yeah,
we would
Take it out.
remove that date.
you're right.
that's when this came into effect, I think.
Yes.
So so it's like anything
So it would be
before that
at
is,
that,
falls under this.
No, if it needs to be there, fine, but I thought we discussed to,
we did discuss it.
Because
Oh, sorry.
if you change the property since July of 2017, it may not abide by this.
It may shift it may shift it slightly, like
Yeah.
the mean,
Yeah.
but
It's not,
it's easier and more apparent for everybody to use the current point in time as a reference than a specific date in 2017, which is only going to get further and further out. So, I mean, that's I know there was some
yeah,
confusion
I
about
don't
it.
remember exactly, but I know we talked about it.
We did talk about it, yeah.
We talked about ending it as the property is located and striking out as of July.
right, yeah, I'm sorry I missed that.
Besides that, it looks good.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me.
I got a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Comment on F, accessory buildings may be placed between the line established by the rear of the principal building on the lot and at least 20 feet from the rear property line, which is measured from the street property line. Now, just caution, the rear is the street side, okay?
Correct.
Now, if you're talking about an accessory building, 20 feet from the street line, if it's a garage, which that means you're going to have a driveway in front of it. If you have a driveway in front of it, you're going to have something parked there more than likely. 20 feet is a parking stall. That car, or the back end of that car, is going to be like right at that street line. I'm just a little caution about the potential safety issue. A car being parked right up to the, or very close to the street line, if that's a little bit cutting it a little bit too close or not, just something to consider. And these regulations, when we talk about the overlay district, the residences, the houses across the street from the lake, how are they impacted by this? They're
They-
not?
They follow normal front yard, rear yard.
Okay, just
So
making
this
sure.
is just those parcels that actually abut the
This is
lake.
only concern, yeah, lake frontage houses, period.
Yeah.
Just confirming, yep, thank
And
you.
we've gone back and forth and baffled over this, and it's like, no, it doesn't say that. No, it says this. So we were really trying to clarify. We didn't change anything.
No.
We were just trying to clarify what they were trying to say. And clarify the rear is the front and the front is the rear.
Yeah, because those are associations, I believe, those neighbors, or neighborhoods, if you will, which
Yeah.
includes both sides of the street, correct?
Well, the association covers both sides, I
Right.
believe, but this only
But this
covers
doesn't, right.
those that are on the lake itself.
Understood, yep, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And even when I read it again, it always is like, wait a second, you have to think.
Well, it's getting better.
It's getting better. Well, that's good.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I guess we're okay with that one.
You're okay for this, so we can put this,
Everyone
send
okay?
this to CROG for referral?
Okay, moving on to 12B, review of business section of zoning regulations.
Okay. So, just to refresh everybody's memory, and those that may not have been here. So, what our consultant did was kind of reorganize our existing regulations so it would make it easier to change them. So you're going to see different article numbers, you're going to see different, numbering systems, and what we also decided is that this is one of the chapters that we thought we could accomplish sooner than later, so we could just keep moving forward. Please disregard any typos, the numbering systems, don't worry about any of that. We'll deal with that later. So, how would you like us to proceed? Do you want us to start from the beginning?
No, I think, why don't you kind of summarize the red parts?
Okay,
Is,
so,
from the.
We'll
from
start
be-
at the first
from
page.
beginning, Yeah,
First-
from the beginning
the
page.
purposes.
Yeah,
Okay, so the purposes really did not have a lot of detail in them, so the purpose of, we changed this, so the purpose of the business districts is to allow for a variety of commercial areas and activities, which is added, that can be economically viable and of scale, size, mass, intensity, and type of use that can be supported by necessary utilities and highways and compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. And this is where we added more. New and infill development, including redevelopment of existing sites, shall be consistent with the physical character of the zoning district and area. So there's something that we just did tonight. We had a new reuse of a site.
okay.
So, under lot and bulk requirements, we took out Thompsonville Village and Special Development Districts because they're going to be in the Special District section of the regulations. So that's why we took those out. Now we're going to get into the complications.
You increase BR to 70% from 66.
So, so that was the first, hold on. I got it. I gotta make sure I've got my right copy here. Here we go. So under, hold on. So under footnotes, and it says notes to area and bulk requirements. So we go to number 4.
Okay.
There was a footnote that said that the commission could, the applicant could be have increased to 70% for regional shopping centers, when the commission determines that off-site drainage will not be increased in a manner to be detrimental to downstream properties. So there was an opportunity for the applicant to go from 66% to 70%. And looking at all of our general properties, the regional shopping centers, we really didn't see that there was much difference, and we thought maybe we would just take that out and make it 70% instead of 66.
Okay.
What, 66 or 70? It's 2/3.
I don't know, it's in business, local, general.
It's all over
It's
the place. yeah.
everywhere, 66. And I think what it was is to trying to keep the impervious surfaces down, because we've got these seas of parking lots.
Also consistent, I guess.
Right, and it's consistent.
So you want to keep it? Keep it
Good with it.
at 66% with the opportunity to still go up to 70?
No,
No, I think the 70's fine.
70's fine.
70's fine. I was just curious where the 66%
Oh,
came from. It just seems like an
I
odd
don't know.
number.
I probably wasn't born then.
Probably not.
Wait a minute, it says 2003 and 2009. You were born. You were like 1 and I was 2, so,
Oh.
okay?
Next time either
You got it.
house number.
All right, so for the regional shopping center, then we're okay with that?
Yep.
Making it 70 just
think so.
in general? Okay. Just right above that, number 3, under the business regional zone, we had a footnote that said, except as provided in section 5.30.2, which I don't even remember what it was, but it had absolutely no relevance to the section.
Okay.
So we were going to take that out. Down on number 7, the minimum existing floor area, we can't do that anymore due to the Public Act. I believe it was 2129, but I might have the wrong Public Act right now, but it was eliminated. And then number 8, a single building is limited to 2,000 square feet. Again, we can't do that. So these are requirements on minimum size of buildings, so we just eliminated them. And then 2 more, which were supplemental bulk requirements. We just made those footnotes instead of a new section. And use requirements. This is going to get complicated. I'm going to let Stephen do some of this because we both need to pay attention to it. So we are, the second footnote, sorry about that. In business L and business G, BG districts, one side yard of each lot may be omitted and buildings may be built to the common lot line provided they meet building code requirements. Because when a building actually goes up to a property line, there are different building codes. So we just wanted to clarify that. So you could do that, but then they're going to have to meet certain fire code and building code requirements. So moving on to 620. I just want to make note that we should, by law, be able to, put in something that allows somebody to have adult use entertainment. We'll look into the legality of that again, but we did not add that at this point. So, personal services. We added that to be a permitted use by site plan in the BP zone. We took out, I'm going to start back at the top. Child daycare centers was eliminated because at the very top it's adult/child daycare facilities, so it was redundant. Health clubs, it would be considered commercial recreation, so we took that out. We took financial institution special permit out in the BLH and BGH zones and made them site plans. Personal services, we have a site plan under the BP. Retail stores, we had 6 and 8. We just made sure that it was clear that none of these uses permitted in this table include medical marijuana dispensary or production facilities. And that was already added into our regs, but it hadn't been incorporated. And number 8, outdoor display of merchandise is permitted on a seasonal basis, including sidewalk sales. And then, drive-through window services. So that used, how we got drive-throughs in this town was footnote 11, and footnote 11 referred down to similar uses, and we somewhere along the line said that, you know, so footnote 11 said you could have a drive-through with banks, and then all of a sudden somebody came in with a similar use with a restaurant. So that's how we had drive-throughs. We were going through a footnote, which had a lot of power. So we just kind of did away with that and made them special permits, except for in the Hazardville section. Stop me if you have questions. Where's the next change? Outdoor dining. So that, after COVID, was required to be as of right. So we put in the actual regulations from the statute. And
Is that what R stands for, regulation?
R stands for as of right.
yeah, up on top, yeah.
Bottom.
Oh, so, yeah. Yes, thank you. We'll add that when it comes to that. Okay, moving on. Medical laboratories, again, no cannabis uses. Medical offices, same thing. Kennels, we already approved this, we just added it in because it was not separate before. Residential, just take note that this is probably going to change a lot with the Public Act 26-1, but for now, I think we've had minor changes on the first sheet and then none on the other. And then there's other activities, and we added farming activities as of right across the board. Marijuana special permit for BL, BG, and BR. And we added the veterinary offices, and that was, it says footnote 3, kennels are prohibited. And so we made that across the board. And then we got into the notes to the use table. Do you want to start?
Sure, I can get started on the notes.
Stephen rehashed this whole thing, basically taking things and putting them all together in groupings that were not. So
With the use table, as Lori had mentioned earlier, some of these things were powers that were given through footnotes, such as the drive-throughs, and some of these things we've implemented in the regulations elsewhere. And so a lot of these strikeouts are of those of that nature. And so footnote 1, we struck out retail sales include the retail sales of goods and or services to the general public for personal or household use. Repairs to goods sold on the premises or goods similar to those sold on the premises are permitted. Footnote 1 is now accessory outdoor storage is permitted when completely screened from view by a uniformly painted solid fence or wall not over 8 feet in height. And then we also added in permitted in all business districts except BL. Now, this is a footnote that kind of already existed. We just had to modify it a little bit. Footnote 2 was originally the sale of liquor is permitted only with a special permit obtained from the commission. I believe we already have liquor permits within the use table. And so footnote 2 is now become dry cleaners may include dry cleaning and processing equipment. That was a footnote that already existed. That was just changing the number from 7 to 2, because we've ultimately reduced the 25 footnotes that was in this section down to, I believe it's 8.
You didn't put them in order. I was just noticing that.
I was trying to, I tried it
know.
the first
You
time
did
putting them
good,
in order.
Steve.
It's just, I tried doing that the first time. It was getting really sloppy. You know, it's actually harder to read putting them in order the first time. So I was like, you know what? Putting it this way, it was actually
Okay.
easier to read it this
I'm
way.
just giving you a hard time.
Oh, I'm aware.
Walter?
All right, can we go back to footnote 1?
Yes.
Permitted in all districts except BL. Is that for building material stores? And why is BP box empty?
Where did we have that footnote? Yeah, that is for building material stores.
So you got except BL, but over here BP is,
Thank you. That is a typo on my side, so I should correct that to
BP.
BP. Thank you.
Okay, just. Second to that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
It's the only way this, it's the only way this gets done, is to have everybody looking at it.
Footnote 3, which is originally the zoning enforcement officer may approve up to 2 amusement machines at any single location. Additional machines require a special permit obtained from the Planning and Zoning Commission. That has now changed to footnote 3 being kennels are prohibited. Again, this was already in existence, just reordering what these regulation numbers are. Footnote 4 has now turned into a short-term open lot sales permit approved by the zoning enforcement officer is required for the sales of 30 consecutive days or less and may not be renewed until 60 consecutive days have passed from the expiration of a permit. A long-term open lot sales permit approved by the commission is required for the sales of 31 days or more up to a maximum of 1 year and may be renewed annually. And then we also crossed out the fees mentioned below. The fee for a sales permit shall be short-term residential of $5, short-term non-residential of $25, long-term residential of $5, and long-term non-residential of $75. This was originally footnote number 19. It's now shifted to footnote 4, and we just added some clarification on timelines, and we felt that including the fees in the footnotes was not appropriate for the regulations. Footnote number 5. This was originally commercial recreation, includes amusement machine establishments, off-track betting parlors, shops or theaters, horse and dog racing, Jaya Life facilities, and bowling alleys. Footnote number 5 is now car washes in the BR zone are permitted only in planned commercial developments and must meet the following criteria added 5, 12, 25. A lot must consist of a congregate of 10 acres, but no more than 15 acres, and have frontage on a state highway. B, the lot does not abut a residential zone. C, a car wash must be an automatic car wash, staffed by at least one on-site attendant during business hours. And D, a separation distance of the same use shall be a 1,000-foot radius from the property lines. This was a text amendment that was passed last year. This is just formalizing it into the regulations as the fifth footnote.
All right.
Footnote number 6. This was originally theaters include activities inside of buildings where live or filmed entertainment is presented. This is now turned into none of these uses permitted in this table include medical marijuana dispensary or production facilities. Again, this was something that was already in the regulations. And this footnote, for those of you who are a little bit lost, this is referring back to the retail stores.
We're just kind of lost on what page number 6 is on.
Number 6 is on.
My apologies. So number 6.
Oh.
Yep, number 6 is actually number 6.
Oh, okay, all right. No wonder we couldn't find it.
It was one of the few that didn't need to change the number on.
No, you didn't put the number in red, that's all. Thank you.
Question on that.
Yes.
Although, I mean, we could come back if did you want to just
Well, I mean, did you have a question you wanted?
on that footnote in particular? None of the uses permitted include medical marijuana dispensary. Were we including medical marijuana dispensary in that marijuana use that was added above? Because if so, then it would kind of negate the. It just says marijuana, which I would propose cannabis dispensary if that's the intent.
No, it goes back to medical laboratories and medical offices.
No, I understand that, but it says, but it's saying none of the uses permitted in this table. Why?
Oh, I see.
Oh, I see
So,
what you're saying in this.
so we should probably just remove
Or just say yeah,
none
just
of
get rid
these
none-
uses
Yeah.
include medical marijuana.
Right, yeah, right.
Okay, so just a little bit of wordsmithing on that one.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
But I mean, if it is a, but do you even need that footnote? If we are allowing, like, why even?
Well,
have the footnote?
because
Part of the regs now, right?
it is part of the regs now, but this is a clarifying point that, because some people may argue that a dispensary is retail, this is a clarifying point that the dispensaries are not considered retail, that they have their own separate use.
But I'm saying if it's got a dedicated use, then nobody can come to us and say, hey, this is a medical office.
We're just saying that they cannot sell cannabis.
What
Just a
is
clarification.
the use that says marijuana? That's not is
That's where
it
marijuana, cannabis dispensaries
dispensaries?
are permitted.
Yeah, dispensaries
But-
and personal
But
use
what we're
and
saying is that with the uses under, where you go?
Retail stores.
Retail stores.
Retail stores,
Not a
medical
medical
offices,
office.
Yeah.
right.
medical
It's not-
laboratories.
it
Well,
does
it's clearly not a
in-
medical office because it's a
I think
distinct
that's why you
use.
need that footnote on
It
those
does not include
items.
medical marijuana unless they apply for a special permit through the marijuana regulations.
Gotcha. Okay.
That-
Can we
Does that
update?
make sense?
So could that be added? I'm going to, because we do have dispensaries in the cancer center for medical marijuana, and then we have another place on Hazard Ave that is a dispensary by prescription only. It's a separate, it's like a pharmacy. We've permitted that. I mean, it was before us. And we said, okay, yeah, because it's not like anybody would drive up to it and they have special dispensation, I'm going to say, to mail it to the recipient because it's very specialized. So there's already 2 places here in Enfield that are very, very specific pharmacies for medical marijuana. So I'm,
So, and just to make sure I am following you guys correctly, are you saying that we should clarify this to say that
Unless?
the uses are, these uses do not permit medical marijuana unless it receives the special use permit for a medical marijuana dispensary, something
Yeah.
along those lines.
something like that. That sounds, yeah.
That makes sense?
I think because we have two already that are very, very specific, and one is right here with our cancer center, and then we have another dispensary further down the road that they're not, I could never go up there and say, here's my medical marijuana card. It has to be prescribed within that center. So I think it has to be really clear.
Okay, so it's a little bit of clarifying language in
Yes.
this section. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right. And then I believe there was at least one more. Yes, okay. And then footnote number 8, which is now the final footnote.
7, around 7.
Oh, did I skip 7?
Yeah.
My apologies, I skipped 7. Footnote number 7. This is on the second page of our regulations now. Footnote number 7 is now agricultural activities. And then we crossed out except farm worker housing, which is an accessory use by right with a zoning permit, shall be subject to the same standards and procedures as apply within the residential zone districts. See notes 1 and 3 under section 4.20.1, as well as section 4.30.1. Now, I will make a quick note that last sentence, see notes 1 and 3 under section 4.20.1 and section 4.30.1, those weren't related to agricultural activities. So those were just incorrect to begin with. And then we have included, it will now read, agricultural activities, which require a special permit, include all processing or manufacturing of agricultural products, whether such products are grown on or off premises, the storage of all agricultural products produced or grown off the premises, and roadside stands larger than 200 square feet in size for the sale of any and all farm products, regardless of where the products are processed or manufactured. The majority of all products sold at the roadside stand must be raised or produced on the premises. This is verbatim from both our residential and industrial sections. This is just bringing it into the business section and making it consistent across the 3 different types of zones we have in town. And now, footnote 8. Footnote 8, which is just a couple bullet points above from what I just read in 7. 8 is now outdoor display of merchandise is permitted on a seasonal basis, including sidewalk sales. Again, this is already a pre-existing footnote. It's just instead of it being footnote number 14 now, it is footnote number 8. And then I guess I can read through the rest of the crossed out. No? Okay. I was going to say, that's going to take me a while if I do that.
I don't think that's necessary.
I think we're good. We can read the crossed out if we want.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Because we'll be here for a minute if I do
They're all
that.
done
I
with
guess,
that.
I think the important thing is to highlight the red items that you've changed and just make some comments about those.
I'm sorry, repeat that one more time?
To highlight the changes.
Just highlight the red items, and, because we can see the crossouts. If you highlight the red items only and explain those, kind of do like an overview on it, then I think we can
Okay.
move it along. Okay, great.
All right. Yes, I went through footnote number 4.
Okay.
I remember reading it, so, or at least I do remember reading it.
Yeah.
All right.
I just wanted to go back real quick. The short-term open lot sales permit approved by the zoning enforcement officer is required for sales of 30 consecutive days or less may not be renewed until 60 consecutive days have passed from the expiration of the permit. You know what, I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong section, and we're going to get to this, because there is a section that we've proposed to have outdoor sales, and similar to what we do in industrial. So we'll get to that, and I'm sorry, I got out of order.
Okay.
So now, moving on to the next section. So section 6.20.14, more than one principal building on a lot. We did not make any changes to that. However, the next section, 6.20.15, this was kind of a hodgepodge section of regulations. The way that it was written, it was kind of confusing exactly what was in here, why these things were in here, and we didn't really have a reason to look at these. So I took the effort to take this section and break it up into multiple sections that are coming up to kind of give a clarity as to what we're looking at in each respective section. So that section, instead of being other requirements, it's now titled similar uses not listed. And 620A is not changed, as it's what similar uses not listed kind of implies.
Okay.
And then the following sections, B, C, D, E, and F, were all changed into the following sections. 6.20.16, parking and driveways. All business servicing or processing, except for off-street parking or loading, shall be conducted completely within enclosed buildings, except for uses noted in 622C below, which that section number is subject to change. And within the BG district, except for driveways providing access to public streets, all buildings, driveways, and parking areas shall observe the buffer yard standards found in section 1010. The next section that this created was also truck parking as accessory use. In the BL and BG zones, the parking of trucks as an accessory use when used in the conduct of a permitted business shall be limited to vehicles of not over 26,000 pounds gross vehicle weight when located within 150 feet of a residence district boundary line. And then 2, in the BG zone, trucks in excess of 26,000 pounds gross vehicle weight used in conjunction with the operation of any business permitted in this district shall not be parked in the open within 150 feet of residence district except during normal business hours. Yes.
So the first one, the 26,000, should that be 25,999? We just discussed that.
What we discussed earlier today in the subcommittee meeting, those were for commercial vehicles within residential zones. This is within business zones.
I understand,
He's talking the weight.
He's talking the way.
but yeah, you're overlapping the pounds, so it should be 25,999 and then 26,000.
It has to be 25,999.
It originally said 26,000.
Okay, so these were just
Yep.
ripped straight from the previous section, so we can go ahead and modify that. Thank you.
Just to clean that up.
Can I just clarify on that section? So is that section implying that trucks are allowed as an accessory use if they're further than 150 feet of a residence? Because it's not explicitly stated there.
So this is,
I think it does imply, yeah.
this is pretty much verbatim from item D under 6/2015. So that was a footnote, and we're just relocating it. And you're right, we probably should clarify it a little bit. And again, the 26,000 gross vehicle weight should be 25,999. And this is why we've reorganized these, because they were just kind of like out of place individually, and we're just trying to put them together. So
Okay, and I understand what you did, but
Yeah.
you're trying to make you and your subcommittee had a discussion that the rest of us have not been privy to, so to make a change on that without a consensus from the rest of the commission, right, we haven't talked
Yeah,
about it.
because we were only dealing with residential.
Yeah, we're doing the
Right.
residential.
Okay,
But
because,
we could have them discuss this.
right.
I
but
I
like
think that
said-
would be a good thing.
Right.
Because I think these two, this one section with the two sub-bullets, I think are very confusing.
Right, and so we haven't discussed that. You discussed it in your subcommittee, which is great. That's what you're supposed to do, but we have to
No,
bring it to the
the
rest of us.
only thing I'm clarifying is you can't have up to 26,000 and then over 26,000. You got to have one number less. That's the
but-
only thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But you-
understand what you're saying.
The only thing, whatever
that
we did in
he's
our
just-
subcommittee is not here.
Right, but he just took what's already there and just rearranged it. That's all he's doing. So
Right,
we
so-
need to talk about that later.
So you want us to look at this
I think so.
in the
Yeah.
subcommittee
'Cause it-
to
right.
clarify what exactly we're looking for.
Right.
Right,
Are
And-
trucks allowed further than, trucks seem like they're allowed further than 150 feet from a resident district, but it doesn't say that. And like our regulations are supposed to explicitly allow it.
So, but this says, in other words, the overnight parking cannot be within that distance. But this is for like in the back of stores, they get a truck comes in with their goods and they unload it and then they leave. So we're saying that they're not allowed to just park there, and there are some restrictions. So we can.
Yeah, I
We'll
think
look at
it's
that.
probably mostly a wording issue. I think the intent is good.
right.
I'm sure the intent is good.
Carrying on to 6.20.18, outdoor sales. This section was not a part of that hodgepodge I had mentioned earlier. This already exists within the business zones and just made a couple of changes. So within the BLBRBG, and then we removed and the Thompsonville zone, the outside display of fresh fruits, vegetables, plants, and flowers may be permitted on a seasonal basis as an accessory use to a similar principal use contained within a completely enclosed building, provided that the owner shall submit and have approved by the zoning enforcement officer a site plan showing the following. Crossed out the limits of the outside storage area because we felt it was repetitive to the following bullet points. Maximum square foot and location of the outside storage area, types of products to be displayed, the method of outside display, the seasonal limits of the products to be displayed, all site signage, and any outside display area shall be not less than 10 feet from the adjoining street right-of-way and shall be so arranged so as to provide for the safe movement of vehicles and pedestrians onto, within, and exiting the site.
I might just make a comment for F, all site signage. Rather than that, we should say any proposed signage because it's for just this outdoor area. If we say all site signage, we might get like all the signs on one of the malls.
And then this next section here, this was the last part of that section that I had mentioned that we broke it up. So 6.20.19, outdoor dining. And we did make a couple of minor tweaks to this as well. Amended 730.02. In any business zone except BEP and the Planning and Zoning Commission may grant approval for, we had crossed out. Seasonal outdoor dining areas for restaurants may be approved administratively as defined in these regulations as an accessory use subject to the following conditions. The reason for striking out Planning and Zoning Commission approval is because, as stated earlier, there was a state statute created during COVID, where outdoor dining became as of right, but still subject to the town's regulations. And so, again, they are subject to the following conditions. Outdoor dining area cannot be located on public property, town sidewalk, right-of-way, etc. Outdoor dining may be allowed on porches or decks, provided all the other conditions are met. Outdoor dining does not result in interference with or hazards to or visibility problems for pedestrians on sidewalks or vehicle traffic. Any non-vegetative shading devices shall be of a non-permanent type, such as umbrellas, retractable awnings, etc., and shall be safely anchored. Areas, we cross out the words on which, that will reduce required parking below the minimum required parking exists cannot be used for outdoor dining areas. If required, additional parking must be provided to accommodate additional patrons. Adequate self-closing trash receptacles must be provided, and the restaurant is responsible for cleanup of all trash generated from outdoor dining, including the restaurant site and surrounding areas. Tables must be located in such a manner as to maintain access to the building for emergency services. The commission may approve outdoor audio systems with a special use permit upon review of surrounding uses and in compliance with the Town of Enfield noise ordinance. The commission may also revoke, I should probably modify this. The commission may also revoke said permit for non-compliance conditions of approval. This is where we should probably cross out commission because this is,
Yeah.
again, the admin.
CEO.
ZEO probably.
I'm sorry, we're proposing to replace the commission with the CEO.
On H, number H?
On H, correct. I. In addition to required parking for indoor seating, outdoor dining requires one parking space for every 4 seats. J. All tables, chairs, trash receptacles, etc., shall be removed at the end of each outdoor dining season. Then across to XI, outdoor dining area cannot exceed 4 tables or 16 seats unless there are wait persons to serve patrons. Now, I had highlighted this because the state statute said that it's subject to our zoning regulations if they are reasonable. And I just wasn't sure how we viewed this as a reasonable regulation, as it also can be kind of hard to enforce, making sure that they're putting it away every single day. So I thought that might be a conversation item.
I have a question real quick.
Oh, I must have read that too fast.
We're going
Never
through and
mind.
we're reading all of the bold-faced red here, but as I'm reading it, it's pretty much all the same as it used to be. So shouldn't we just be going over the highlighted sections or the sections that are changed, not every single word in the whole
Yeah, I
section?
think what you can do is kind of
Just,
summarize the highlights. We can read all the verbiage, so I
Okay.
don't think you need to read them word for word, okay? 'Cause,
Okay.
You know,
Well-
we're kind of following along and jumping ahead here, you know, and so if you could just hit the highlights, you know, of the
Gotcha, okay.
paragraphs, you know.
So I'll jump forward then to,
Okay, so the question is that yellow highlighted,
sorry, go ahead.
The yellow highlight, let's,
be there or should it not be there?
I mean, well, it's for the end of the season, so I had misinterpreted that to the end of the day. So that I think that's reasonable enough to keep. So,
But you also, you have something else
To
highlighted.
limit.
Right.
You have the limit-
Limiting
the
4 tables.
table.
yeah.
I don't see how we can do that.
Right.
If they have an area that can support 30 tables, where do we get out saying? they
but
can
you
have 4?
can't have 50% more than your outside dining can't be 50%
Well,
more
I'm
than your
just using that number
I'm just
in
saying.
general,
So
but-
I think, and remember, these were written
Yeah.
COVID. We had pre-COVID, which was really,
Yeah.
like,
I think we should
Enfield
take it
had
out.
no outdoor dining.
Well, I think one of the issues is, you know, people just don't get any wait service. They go out and eat by themselves outside, and
Right.
so I think we're trying to kind of control that.
And leaving their trash on the table.
Right, so,
Wait,
you know.
are you saying are you saying that's something we should regulate though?
Yeah, I think that's a reach.
It feels like a reach.
If a business wants to have 8 tables outside, I'm sure they're going to supply staff to promote their business and make money.
Right.
I don't think we should have that. I think that should be taken out, personally.
I mean, window service for restaurants is not abnormal,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we don't have any like food halls here, but
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, like a food hall, you can like
yeah.
get
See,
your food
it-
and then move outside.
Mr. Chairman, it
Yes.
seems to me that the outdoor service would more likely be if they're serving alcohol.
Probably.
If this is a mom and pop diner or something like that, they're not going to have service outside necessarily. And if they want to, they could. But if they're allowed, if they've got the room to have more tables outside, that's something that people really do like.
Yep.
To be able to just eat outside, have the trash receptacles. So I would also kind of say that we should eliminate that, because then as long as they have to prove that they don't have more than 50% outside seating than they do inside.
Okay,
So
yeah. I'm
that's-
okay with
that's
I'm
gonna
okay with
limit
that.
it.
I mean, I thought we were trying to accommodate the restaurateurs, the providing staff, but I guess that doesn't really make sense if you think about it.
But I have not to throw a wrench in it, but what would a place like Dairy Queen, like that, they don't provide any outdoor and indoor seating?
That to me is a takeout.
So you wouldn't consider.
They don't have outdoor seating either. You eat in your car.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They don't
Illegal.
They don't have.
Yeah.
They're seating where it's not supposed to be right now. They have it out
I haven't
on
been down
front of
there.
their building where we told them
Do they have a
no.
couple picnic tables out there?
No, they have benches so that, if a car comes
Yeah, they were
flying
supposed
down
to have that in
Enfield
the back.
Street,
I think they're supposed
They
to
can
have
go right through
tables
them.
in the back.
yeah,
Yeah. Right.
they've got them there.
But I guess in general, what you're getting at is that they're not designed for indoor, so they really don't have outdoor either. It's like McDonald's used to be. You ate in your car.
Yeah.
When you didn't have indoor dining. You got it at the window and you went and ate in the back tailgate of the car.
Yeah.
What's the? I mean, yeah. I don't know. What's the use of the requiring indoor dining? Does anybody recall from?
I'm sorry.
When there was,
What? Say
like
that again?
so the next section the section that talks about outdoor dining can't exceed 50% of indoor dining area.
Right,
Because
So it requires indoor dining.
right.
Yeah.
So
If
you
you're,
could, yeah.
you're trying to equate like a walk-up
Right.
outdoor, place to a regular sit-down restaurant. Because prior to COVID, Enfield did not have any outdoor seating to their restaurants. And then COVID hit, and then we had to. So we want to make sure that the outdoor seating didn't exceed the indoor seating because it just didn't make sense. Because you're going to lose, if you did, let's take an example, 100% outside, 100% inside, winter hits, you've lost half of your restaurant income.
Or your Dairy Queen and you just shut down in the winter.
Yeah.
But again, do
But
you
that
see
would-
what but Dairy Queen is a different type of industry. That's not a
So you wouldn't
Restaurant.
consider, okay, so maybe that would explain. So you wouldn't consider a place like Dairy Queen to fall
that's a
within.
seasonal. Right.
To fall within the outdoor dining?
So it's a seasonal restaurant. I mean, yes, we all eat ice cream in the winter, but I'm just saying is generally ice cream places closed for the winter. Where, say, Figaro's, they're open
Right.
12 months a year. So in the winter, if he had out 100% dining out, as many tables outside as he had inside, during the winter, he'd lose half of his income.
Right, but that just seems like a stupid business decision and not a zoning regulation.
It doesn't have outdoor services.
That's
No,
what I
I'm
don't
just
know.
using them, but I'm just saying.
But like you get where I'm coming from, like,
Well, you're getting in the weeds.
Yeah, you're getting way into the weeds.
Dairy Queen is not dining.
Right.
Dining
It's
is
ice
being
cream.
served the food, where at Dairy Queen, you're getting the food at the takeout window and going and sitting.
okay, so you would define, okay,
Yeah.
dining is.
Dining is
serving.
like a restaurant,
down.
sitting down
Okay.
restaurant.
This specifically says restaurants.
Yeah.
If
With wait
If
staff.
they had 100% inside and 100% outside, that would increase the parking.
Right,
Yeah.
that's another
And
thing.
Okay, so that's where, that's.
so
where you're
that's,
coming from.
but this, think of this as an accessory use. It's not their primary area for dining, but if you want to get
More.
takeout and go sit outside, you can.
Okay,
Or you could be served.
that context helps.
Okay, so do we have consensus on getting rid of the yellow part on J? Oh, sorry, Rob.
On that same section, all tables, chairs, trash receptacles, etc., shall be removed at the end of each outdoor dining season. You were going to change that to day?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So if a business has patio tables outside, why would they need to take those tables in at the end of the season?
Mostly because nobody's really going to be eating out there. And, they're usually not permanent tables. They're usually, weighed down plastic tables with umbrellas or whatever.
Right.
Well, like Yard Tavern, they have nice, heavy metal tables that are outside under an overhang. And there's no reason for them to pull those in at the end of the season.
Do they?
I have no idea, but
I know I do on my deck. I take
do.
my summer furniture and put them in the basement.
Yeah,
I think most restaurants pull them in. put them
Yeah, I
someplace.
think they don't, they
I-
probably do it anyway.
I mean, I've been there in the wintertime, and I don't believe that they were pulled in. But like I said, they're under an overhang. There's no reason to pull them in. So I'm
Okay.
not really sure.
I guess because when this was written, there was no outdoor dining anywhere in Enfield. There was no overhangs, there were no patios per se. So you needed to remove them because they would be
Right, but
unprotected.
if we're going through these to make changes, maybe that's something that, I mean, is there a legitimate reason that it's preventing? Is there something that it's preventing that has been a problem in the past?
We didn't have a past.
I think it's a good question. I mean, I completely see your point because I think there's a big difference between
Yes.
temporary
Yeah.
furniture and
Yeah.
more heavy-duty
very
design for permanent,
I think
semi-permanent.
our CEO might have some,
So there were the two places prior to COVID. There's Panera Bread and the Panini place out in front on Freshwater Boulevard.
Yeah.
they got their permits
table.
after COVID, during COVID.
No, that was done, the cement patio was done prior to COVID. Roger O'Brien was here. when
Oh,
that
that's
went up.
right. That was
And
right
the
up
same
in the
with,
corner.
same with Panera. And
Yeah.
part of the problem was when we originally got the applications in, the tables that they were using were plastic. And the concern was, in the wintertime, would they get blown away? The umbrellas, the same thing. They wanted to leave everything out, and part of the requirements for that were that they remove it from the patios. Some of the places, I don't know what's installed. I don't frequent those places, so I'm not sure if they're heavy tables or not.
All right.
And as for Yard House Tavern, or Yard Tavern, that was a special permit for the outside extension on the south side of the building. And we'd have to look at the special use permit to see what was determined for that, for the outside seating there. But I know of at least Panera Bread and Hot Pockets, or whatever it is there, the Panini place on Freshwater. Those were done prior to COVID, and the concern was the umbrellas and the tables blowing away.
You're right. Those were the only two places and there were those concerns. So
It
that would
seems
be-
to me that if they have metal tables that are not going to blow away and they push them up, they're probably going to want to push them at least underneath the awning and maybe stack them or something. So that's removing them, in my opinion.
Why are we preventing outdoor dining, say, off-season? What is the off-season? That's not even defined.
When there's 2 feet of snow on the ground?
Why are we prohibiting them?
Below 68.
What do you call it? Over, what the, wooden tap? They got
have-
the little
they have the
bubbles.
igloos.
Yeah, the bubbles, yeah.
Which they didn't have, again, when these were put into place. So if somebody wants to sit out there under the little bubble,
I think that whole section of that should just be taken out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think a reasonable consideration, yeah.
Yep.
Is that a consensus?
I think so.
I think we've
We're taking J out.
I think it's evolved, the outdoor dining. Since, COVID, a lot of things have evolved, so
Never used to have bubbles with heaters in them.
that's right.
Do you want to keep the 50% though?
I think that's wise.
That makes sense.
Okay, so the second part of J we're
Yep,
keeping.
I see it. Okay, K.
Okay,
All right.
let's go to the highlights.
Yep.
That's actually just.
Mine copy sucks because I don't have the highlights on my copy. Well, section 9, that's just
Yeah.
section subject to change. All right, so moving forward, the next section, section 20.20, outdoor storage. This section actually does not currently exist within the business section. This was an idea that we amongst staff floated with each other about adding outdoor storage in our business zones. Now, this is a regulation that I just ripped from the industrial section and put it in the business section. And so we kind of wanted you as the commission, your thoughts on having outdoor storage within the business zones.
50% sounds like a lot. That's what, something I noticed right away when I was reading it prior to this.
I mean, you are right, 50% is probably a lot. We can change those numbers to something that would be a little bit more appropriate.
I mean, is that necessary? Was it there for a specific reason, or?
Can I?
Go ahead.
So I remember going through the conversation in the industrial zone to have this outdoor storage. Most of the commissioners were not very happy with that in the industrial zone. So
Yeah.
when I saw this in here, I was like, they're probably going to have some concerns. So please have your concerns. If you want to eliminate it, great. If you want us to modify it so it's much smaller, we can do that. But basically, it's 50% of the rear and/or side yard outdoor space.
So
Pardon me.
are a lot of the industrial people using outdoor storage, or do they have a need to use
So-
outdoor storage?
So this came up during the conversation and I didn't necessarily agree with it when we were discussing, for instance, now, Home Depot is a prime example. So they have over 20 parking spaces in the front of the parking lot are now have mulch and plants and, outbuilding sheds that are on display there. That approval only allowed for outside storage under the overhang of that building. Same with a couple other places in town. Some of the places, they didn't allow it under the fire code. But when Home Depot was built, that was one of the allowances. The only other place for outside storage is in the rear of the building. So the issue is enforcement versus allowances under the regulations. Now, if you want to allow some amount of storage outside for certain business districts, that might be a viable option, but I don't think me personally, I don't think the same amount, 50%, and side yard storage should necessarily be the same in a business district.
Yeah.
That's just my perception of it.
So I think we do need to clarify. So this is outdoor storage of items to be sold later. So outdoor sales is different than outdoor storage.
So it's not something, they're not storing parts or something outside, or things they use for their,
So I think it's more like Home Depot, just, but they have, I think that's where this was going, is that, because we have outdoor display of merchandise on the next pages.
I mean, are they storing metal racks outside that they use inside the
Yeah,
store? You know,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's the difference.
Like I said, I kind of like said that you might have an issue with this, so
Stuff they have out in the parking lot.
it's for sale.
It is for sale, but I agree with that. But like the mulch and all that stuff, they have it out there because they use that area to load the people's cars and trucks, rather than having to drag it all out from the store and the person has to do it by himself.
But all I'm saying is the original approval for Home Depot
For outdoors.
for outdoor storage of materials was limited to the rear and for display items under the front overhang. So I mean, I could go and enforce it, but it hasn't gotten to that point yet, because I understand the convenience of people going there and picking up bags of mulch, loading it to the back of their cars, or whatever. But another example would be Tractor Supply, which is in your enforcement reports, where they had trailers, they had mounds and mounds of broken pallets in the rear, and on the side, they were storing, especially in the fall, pellets on pallets, 10 different, 20 feet high, and taking up parking spaces. So that's kind of where this evolves from,
Yeah.
for your consideration. And what type of limitations you may want on it.
The Tractor Supply, you're talking about the fenced-in yard that they have?
They have the fenced-in yard, but this, I'm talking about, that was approved, but I'm saying trailers outside of that.
Yeah,
Have
they-
it outside?
They had the trailers all against the curb along the roadway there at one point.
okay.
Yeah, right against Hazard Ave, yeah.
And in that back corner, they have what you're talking about, all the pallets.
Right.
I think 50% is a lot.
Yeah, I think
There's
that's
a lot,
way
yeah.
too much. That's way too much.
For storage, yeah.
Yeah.
It may not be a lot if you're talking about Home Depot or Tractor Supply, yeah, but if you're talking about a smaller business that's got a smaller lot, 50% of the outside may not be very much. When we were first looking at this, I thought we were talking about like accessory building storage, but we're not talking about that. We're just talking about things outside.
Yeah.
So the problem with that, though, is if you're taking Home Depot into consideration, 50% of the interior building, you're not going to have a parking lot for people.
Yeah, right.
So you can't really do it that way.
Well, by the same token, I go to the hardware store in Summers. It's not Enfield, but they've got wheelbarrows outside and all that kind of stuff, the Ace Hardware or whatever.
And they pull it in, and usually pull it in every
They pull
night.
it in, yeah. Some they keep chained outside,
But then you got Kelly Fredette's got all their wood outside, like the one on Hazard Ave literally has it right in the
Yeah.
parking lot, and the one in Thompsonville's right in the parking lots. So, what do you, I mean,
Tricky one. But these regulations aren't even about parking, so these regulations don't even allow outdoor storage in the parking lot.
Right.
We're just talking about the rear and side yard. So those are like
Yeah.
still kind of a grayish area.
And still, a container would still not be allowed for storage.
Containers would fall under you. If it's going to be for longer than 30 days, they'd have to come before you for that.
Right. So if somebody applied and got approved, they could have a container permanently, not as temporary storage?
Containers under our regulations are strictly temporary. And you, as a commission, would be making that decision as for the duration of the use of that container.
So I feel like you would like to allow for some outdoor storage of not necessarily saleable materials, or just temporary storage for materials until the season comes or whatever. So maybe we could work on this a little bit, because this is basically verbatim from the industrial zone.
Yeah,
So you're willing to allow some sort of outdoor storage of goods,
I think so, for display
not necessarily for
purposes,
sale at the
some
time.
storage, maybe, I don't know.
So we could look at
Like
that.
what you were saying about Home Depot and having to have the stuff, out front so people can get it. Some of that comes into a safety thing too, because when you got
Oh, yeah.
people trying to get 30 bags of mulch, it's not realistic.
And cars zipping by
Right,
at 90 miles an hour.
right.
Well, that aisle's kind of narrow.
Yeah, well, those, oh, well, I gotta tell you, I've seen them come flying through there.
Yeah, I'm
People are
sure.
out there. It's like, whoa.
So let us regroup on that, and we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Because
Maybe-
actually, what is the section? Requirements for retail sale of new and used motor vehicles. No unregistered motor vehicle or motor vehicle registered to the dealer shall be stored or parked nearer to the street than the building front line, is what we've added. And then we have the section outdoor display of merchandise, which is really what I think we were just talking about.
Yep, part of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we need to, so those sections should be
Yeah. Well, they're a
next to
little
each
bit
other,
different.
but defined. So what's,
One's for the
This one's
specific
defined.
sales, and
right,
the
this
other
one's
is for
defined,
storage.
but storage is not
Yeah.
really defined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to do something about storage.
I mean, well, there's no real actual change to the outdoor display of merchandise. This was just kind of brought out and spelled out a little bit more. So, to my memory, it was just kind of verbatim, just put it in another location, I believe.
Section 6.30 doesn't make sense, because 6.30 is specific to BR. So 6.30.3 is all business zones.
Yeah,
That's just a
Yeah.
logistical.
Ah, thank you.
Outdoor storage in a business zone should be really limited to the rear,
Right.
possibly side yards,
Right.
not the
Yeah.
front
Yeah.
at all.
Well, and that's what, right.
And so, I mean, we
Yeah.
make that analogy with Home Depot, but what we were talking about doesn't really apply to that. What we're talking about with Home Depot, I think applies to 6.30.3.
yeah,
Yes.
you're right.
Yeah.
Outdoor display of
Yeah,
merchandise.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's not supposed to be stacked higher than 5 feet. Okay.
I think the mulch is higher than.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. When I have to climb on things, it's higher than 5 feet.
So, so the issue here is that I think this is how we got it under the overhang, right, Rick?
Yes.
So this says, no merchandise display shall reduce or occupy required parking. Well, that's certainly not the case at Home Depot right now. It's productive for them. I've seen people picking up their mulch and
Every day.
yeah. So, I mean, overall, the United States is overparked, pretty much everywhere. And even with that parking and the 2 weeks ago, I was at Home Depot just about every day, getting stuff for repairs at my house. And that place was busy, but it did. The fact that all of that area of parking was covered with merchandise didn't seem to make a difference. People were able to park with no problem.
The other end where they park the snowplows and the other trucks.
So I think what we need to do is look at this and maybe, consider a percentage of parking or,
Something
I
like
don't
that.
just,
Where does Costco fit in with their cars that they have out there that are, they have 2 or 3 parking spaces with cars and, chained in?
Oh, the carts?
No, cars, C-A-R-S, cars.
Really? I didn't notice
Yeah,
that.
What kind of,
Yeah,
what do you
right.
mean?
They usually have them
That's
inside
inside.
the lobby. In the summertime, though, they move them outside. It's usually
Yeah.
one or
Oh,
two
okay.
spots.
The ones they're
but
selling?
Again, I
Yeah,
don't
okay.
think it's taking up enough space to.
Yeah.
The ones that are- Yeah, okay.
I've never seen the outdoor ones. I've seen the ones inside.
Good
Yeah.
weather, they move it outside.
Yeah.
Usually right where, across from where the liquor store is there.
Yeah.
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 But it's usually just one or two cars at max. It's, I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
there's a million
again,
parking spaces there. And
some of the parking spaces are not as convenient as others, but there is plenty of parking over there,
Who does?
in my opinion.
Cars?
So,
you're gonna revisit this one.
so we're going to
Okay, so the
revisit this
boxes-
and get back to you.
Cremated too? Really?
Hey, we did that
And
pretty
that's
good.
everything.
Okay,
Not even an hour and a half.
okay, other business.
But do we have a chance to add any other just overall thoughts on the
ahead.
business?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, so, I mean, we can discuss now or not, but some things I wanted to think about was, if there's any way we could encourage adaptive reuse in the business districts, whether we can define it by a certain small scale or low impact, consider, however we can make it easier to better reuse empty buildings. I'm not proposing any specific regulations.
Are you thinking incentives?
Yeah, incentives, or I mean, I know in our POCD, you know, one of our things was for economic development was making applications easier, making it easier to do business in Enfield. So kind of decreasing the hurdles to getting a business where one already existed, especially if there's limited or no site alterations.
So, I mean, for instance, we had a perfect example of that today.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a
What
vacant
is
site
this?
for many, many years. It was developed in the 1970s originally. The landscaping islands are there. That's just that the landscaping itself was kind of but everything else was fine. But she had to come in for a special
Special
permit
permit,
because it was a daycare. So how would we make that easier?
I think
Because
there's
the
a
use
lot
is
of
what
reuses.
actually required the public hearing.
Yeah, I'm not. It's just I don't have any specific
Okay,
regulation
all right.
ideas. But it's
Then
just, you know,
something to think
adaptive
about.
reuse is a good thing.
Yep, absolutely.
To fill space, and if there is opportunity for us to incentivize it, or at least just make it a little easier, might be something to
Yeah.
take advantage of.
Like maybe not requiring all of the trees and shrubbery.
I mean, if the site is already developed, maybe. I mean, that's a consideration.
Well, no, because we do require some kind of landscaping and.
Right, I'm just giving them a hard time
Right.
because
Yeah,
of his tree
yeah,
infatuation.
we understand that.
I mean, everything in balance.
But I think we do a lot of reuse on buildings.
we do.
I mean, we have. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely. Yeah, I mean, we
Well, I think you're
definitely don't
talking-
dissuade it.
Well,
But
the SDD, in part, takes care of some of that. what you're
Right.
talking
for
about.
larger
For large
developments,
business,
yeah.
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 Well, I guess, you know, the way to do it would be not to require, you know, a site plan review.
And that's the
Do we
thing.
want to
is-
dump that? I don't know.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is, I don't know where exactly we would
Yeah.
define that. But I mean, that's the thing is that if somebody was not changing any, like, staff already does administrative approvals for some things, but some things may still need to come to us for like a site plan review. And even if nothing's changing, it still has to come to us. That's still more time for the applicant, more effort,
Yep.
whereas they could just work with staff. I don't know exactly how to define that, but just a thought. And then the other thing, kind of topic was lot areas and setbacks. I was thinking especially about the BL zone. I was kind of wondering how many nobody has to answer this, but I was kind of wondering how many are non-conforming today to that 30,000 square foot lot area, 150 frontage, 35-foot front yard. It feels a little big for a local business zone, and my thought is to see if there's any way we could reduce that to encourage smaller scale development. And we obviously have our business regional zone, which is the large scale development, business general, which seems like it would be the middle scale, but then business general has a smaller lot area and smaller lot size. So a little confusing to me, but I think
I see what you're saying.
we would want to encourage smaller development, you know, smaller businesses.
Or mom and pops.
Mom and pops.
Yeah.
So that's my thought. And then the last thing was, I mean, possibly some way you could, the last thing was just if we could, we kind of talked about this in the parking section, but I know there's a little parking section in the business districts. If there's any ways we could encourage and incentivize shared parking, driveways, and curb cuts. And that could be perhaps giving a little extra flexibility with setbacks to perhaps decrease setbacks or things like that. Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any, if you want to jump on.
It's also very possible that a lot of these places are out of business because they didn't have enough parking.
It is possible. Yeah, well, and that's why what I'm like shared parking so that we can encourage businesses to come up with parking plans that work for them. So if they don't necessarily have enough parking on site, they could perhaps come up with a parking plan, present it to come up with a parking plan with neighbors, present it to us.
How's that going to work with insurance?
The liability.
That's the business's job, not ours. I don't.
It doesn't work for Jimmy's Pub because, you know, the abutting businesses, you know, don't want to, are
Right.
not willing to help him out.
No, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't work for everybody, but.
And it doesn't work for the Yard House either.
Yeah.
The Yard Tavern. They're parking in the right of way,
Doesn't work for anybody, because if you slip and fall, then
right?
that's where the insurance comes in.
Yeah, I mean,
I hear what you're saying, and
I-
it's a good idea, but we're a litigious society, and do I want to be responsible for your patron that falls? No.
Well, Cold Harbor Seafood comes to mind, in my mind,
Yeah,
at the old Schatz, you know, package store. I mean,
Yeah.
there basically is no parking when you go there.
Yeah.
People are parking on the side of the
Yeah.
road and up on the bank, you know, and it's difficult, but not sure what the solution is to that. But,
yeah.
okay. You good? Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Item 13, request for permit extension 11 Pearl Street, PH 3009, for mixed-use residential and commercial. We have some email traffic here from Lori and the owner.
You asked for more information.
Yes, request for permit extension at 11 Pearl Street. This is Patrick Tallerita's place at the old fire station. I did ask for information, and I did get an email. Says, Lori, thank you for speaking with me today. As we discussed, I will not be able to attend the planning and zoning meeting this coming Thursday. He knew it was Wednesday, but please share the following thoughts with the commission on my behalf. Over the past few years, I have been in discussions with several prospective taproom operators who are interested in partnering with me at this location. However, they have consistently highlighted the importance of waiting for progress in the area's development, particularly regarding the railroad station, before moving forward. When I initially submitted our application to the commission, I, like others, believed that the train station and other proposed projects would be completed, or at least well underway by this time. I understand that the station is making progress with an expected completion date in 2 years. Other developments are advancing as well, and I applaud the progress on all fronts. I would greatly appreciate the Commission's understanding of the situation, respectfully request an extension of this application to preserve this opportunity. And then I can contact him. What?
I've got your email here for
Oh,
dates.
look at that. Thanks.
There you go.
I was like, oh my God, what do I do with the dates? So it was approved June 10th, 2021. Expiration is June 10th, 2026. And request extension to June 10th, 2031. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we are waiting for this train station still. I mean,
I've been hearing that for 20 years.
hopefully it's going to get here. Yeah, that's come up several times in our discussion.
So
3 years, he's adding another 5.
5 years.
It was 5 years beginning.
It was 5 years.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
she
it was
said 2023.
2021
I'm
to
sorry.
2026. yeah.
I'm sorry.
So he's asking for another 5 years.
Yep.
I'm not sure they're even going to start for another year or two.
Aren't they supposed to start in 27 now? I know that the dates keep getting pushed and.
I don't have a definitive
and-
date for you. I believe that construction is maybe starting in 2 years.
How many extensions can we legally approve? I'm just, can we do like,
If it's approved, you can approve
no.
up to 5-year extension.
no, I'm saying, all right, we can approve 5 years.
Yeah.
And then in 5 years, it's still not done, but the poor man wants to do the pizza brewery thing. I've been waiting for that. And then he comes back and says, hey, it's coming. The train
Right.
station's coming. Can I get another? Can you? How many times can you do that?
So
Ask
maybe
for
you
an
could get,
extension.
statutorily, I believe it's 5 years. However, maybe he comes in for a reapplication. to
So
renew
he
it.
can come in
5 years is the max you can
5
get.
years, and in 5 years more, in 5 years, he can come and ask for another 5 years?
No, he could come in and
He can-
reapply.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
Unfortunately, the situation is out of his control. It's all up to the
Yeah.
state to go and
Right.
build this thing. And,
It's not,
and
it's,
it's been a long haul.
yeah.
But it sounds like they're making progress. I don't know, they finished Windsor Locks,
Yeah, they
So-
did a nice job.
so they're working their way up the
I
river.
thought they were supposed to go straight from Windsor Locks to here. This like the same crew. I thought
It's
that was
DOT.
that's wild.
They do what they want.
Good luck.
I don't know, I think it's a reasonable request.
Yeah,
I think so.
So do we need to make a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mr. Secretary?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to grant a 5-year extension on public hearing number 3009 Pearl Street, for the extension for mixed-use residential and commercial.
Second.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Ken Helinski,
4.
Christie Antonio,
Or
Linda DeGray,
or,
Joseph Mueller,
4.
Terrence Lynch. 4. Walter Krizel.
4.
And John Petronella is 4.
Okay, unanimous, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, better get to the next page. Okay, commissioners' correspondence. Anybody have anything?
yes, I do.
Okay.
But go ahead. Did
Go
you-
ahead, Chris. You
sure,
go-
yeah,
You go first.
Last week was the quarterly regional planning commission meeting. CROG did publish a warehousing study, pretty in depth, but they also have slides. I'll try to remember to share that out. One of the most a quick notable thing I noticed from them, which I think we can take back, is differentiating the different types of warehouses is all the more important, because they're vastly different in how they work with trucks and traffic and all. So something good for us to take back doing our industrial regulations. And then another big topic, well, it's been a regular big topic, was PA 25-1, which was the big housing bill from last year, last November. Some of the regulations do take effect July 1st. In fact, I think last meeting I alluded to one of those being the residential parking. So, I mean, the state regulations will supersede our regulations regardless. But one of the things they were doing were asking the towns to see the progress everybody was making. It was kind of all over the place. It doesn't seem like anybody is really prepared to have their regulations updated by July 1st. So we are right with the pack. There's definitely some towns who are actively working on it, but it's being encouraged that we do our best to try to get those new July 1st regulations in our regulations, just for everybody's sake of clarity. So that way nobody's like having to look at two different documents basically. So again, like one of them was the parking minimum requirements below 16 units for residential. And then that's a big one. And then another one was allowing middle housing in commercial, which actually we were just talking about commercial. So that's something we'll have to update. So allowing middle housing, which is 2 to 9 unit buildings, by summary review, which is not something we have in our regulations. And there was no clear answer on whether a summary review is equivalent to our site plan or not, or if it's a hybrid. So I think staff is going to have a good time with that one. But just wanted to give you guys all the heads up, and I'm sure staff will be working with us
Sure.
on that.
Thank you. Linda?
Okay, I'm plugging economic development because I'm the liaison. In October, we're going to start we're working on it right now, getting restaurants for Restaurant Week. So that'll be exciting. So, we're working on getting restaurants. And then right now, they're working on a passport, they're calling it a passport program booklet, getting businesses to trying to generate more business for small businesses, the little businesses here in town. And basically you put your name in the book and you pick up a book here at the town or at the library or even at a business. You purchase something at the business, you get a stamp, and the one who gets the most stamps in their books gets to win a prize in the grand prize is in the $100 range. We haven't finalized those dollars yet, but it's exciting that, we're trying to push through some, generating more people to come to town.
Sounds good.
And it's not just for Enfield residents, so those people that live in Windsor Locks, you can come, or those people who live in Hartford can come, get a booklet.
Or
'cause
Suffield,
right
or-
here, or Suffield, and then you can go to all our businesses here in Enfield, because we do have a lot more businesses than people think here, so yeah, it's a lot of excitement going on.
Sounds good. I
Yeah.
like it.
So look for it, coming soon.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Director of Planning report?
Thanks, Christian. You took my my part of my report away. Yes, so actually the warehouse study, we were actually part of that study. And I was involved with getting Adam Winstanley to talk with them about, how things work and stuff like that. So it actually does have some very good recommendations, as Christian said, that, there are separations as to industrial, the commercial version of, I'm sorry, what am I saying here? So there's warehouse distribution, and then there's manufacturing, and all of those uses act differently when it comes to traffic. So they do have some good recommendations for municipalities to adopt different regulations for that type of parking, where the trucks can come and go and things of that nature. Let's see, Public Act 2601. Also, I've been going to the workshops and along with what Chris was just saying, we are also doing studies to figure out where our required growth areas are going to be. So that we're going to be meeting monthly on that with CROG because that's due in like a year. Yeah, there are the requirements that need to be done, and I'm gonna start getting the list together, and we're amongst many others that don't really have it updated, and I don't know whether we're exempt from going to CROG for the changes, because that's a 30-day referral period. So, but that's something else we'll find out. So we're gonna keep working. We're gonna work on that and get that to you sooner than later. The Commercial Vehicle Subcommittee met this afternoon, and we're getting closer to getting that done. Not much more to do, just a couple little things we want to check out, and then we can meet again and hopefully get that finalized to bring here. Linda, last time you you were saying that when we do the crossouts of the conditions of approval.
Yeah, it gets confusing.
Yeah, so my question is, so we cross them out and keep them there in case we want you to see that we've actually crossed them out? So and for all the commission, so would you rather keep the crossouts in and number it differently, or delete the crossouts and renumber? So do you want to still see the crossouts and then we could renumber it? Would that make it easier?
That would make it much easier, especially for like when you're reading.
Yeah.
For like when,
For the
for
motion,
the secretary.
Yeah, so it'll tell you how
Yeah.
many conditions there are, because you'll have that number there, you won't have to subtract it, but you
Right.
still want to see the
Yes.
crossouts.
Right,
Okay.
just renumber it, that's all.
Like you did
I did that with the.
With the one today,
with the one
yeah.
today, I
Yeah.
did do that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was reading the motion and then it was like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
now I have
Okay.
to sit there and try to
we will try
do
to
that
do
math
that.
real quickly.
Renumbering, yeah.
But
Okay,
thank
so we're gonna keep the crossouts and renumber by eliminating them. And let's see what else I have. Oh, we did get approval to hire a new full-time zoning enforcement officer, or an additional one. I shouldn't say a new one.
He's not leaving. He cannot leave.
So it's actually already out. So I've put it in the Casio and other places. And we can hire as of July 1st.
Yay.
Sounds good.
We just need to find a desk and a
Yeah.
place to put it. That we'll figure out.
Outdoor picnic table, all he needs is an extension cord and a
There you go.
table.
There you go.
Yeah.
Get one of those little plastic bubbles. It's a
So
pro.
that's all I have, I think, for now. Yes. Okay.
That's it, right?
Admin approvals.
Authorization for administrative approvals.
It's all red. He did the reports.
For the first one, SPR 1967, that's at 442 Enfield Street. Right now, they were previously approved as two non-conforming apartments upstairs, dwelling units, and a nail salon for the downstairs business use. The application would, or the applicant in this case, wants to change the whole building into office space, which would then make it more conforming for the BL zone. Plus, they're willing to abandon the nonconformity. So everything will be in line with it being now a conforming BL district property.
Yeah, it was a pretty comprehensive report on it, I think, that we saw.
AI. No, it wasn't AI. It was me. So, if
Pretty
you,
good, huh?
do you have any questions on that one? It's pretty straightforward.
Anybody have any issues with this one?
Nope.
A good
Okay.
example of adaptive reuse.
Yeah, we're good to go.
And making it easy on them.
Yeah.
So nice work.
Okay,
And the second one was previously approved for a fueling station for the DPW directly to the north side of the existing building itself. Because of monetary constraints and budgeting, they've come up with a plan now to move it between the two storage buildings further to the west. And they've reduced the size of the fueling station along with the number of tanks, above-ground tanks. They're still going to remove the underground tanks that they have there. And it's going to create a less impervious for the whole parcel. So everything that they're doing is basically beneficial. It's just going to be a little smaller, still have a canopy. You don't have to worry about landscaping because of the topography sets it down in a little bit of a gully, and it's hidden from the street line. And that's about it for that
Okay,
one.
again, there was quite a bit of detail in the report and the diagram and all that, so I think we have a pretty good understanding. Anybody have any issues with this?
Nope.
Okay, good to go. Applications to be received.
Those are the two that we just discussed.
Okay. Opportunities, unresolved issues? Executive session, none?
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.